Boom. Welcome back to Ronin's Den. We're in Alphonse's interrogation chamber. My name's Eric. As always, I'm joined with Steve, and we have our awesome guest this week, John from Nat Handsome Games. We're going to talk about his upcoming Kickstarter. John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your project?
So I'm John, avid tabletop role-playing game player for over 13 years. I'm creating my second, third project now, and going to be pushing it out onto crowdfunding. It is a 5e supplement for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, if that's not super clear. But it's all fairy tale inspired, both modern classic, so think Anderson or Grimm, or even some of the more uh, common or more recent fairy tales as well.
All right. So, first of all, first question right out the
Yeah,
gate. It's a real barn burner here. Why Nat Handsome Games? Where did that name come from, man?
yeah. So I think natural, and then handsome. Handsome's kind of been a brand of mine for a little while. I do professionally. I'm a like UX UI software engineer. So handsome has been a brand with previous ventures that I've done. And so I tag that along, and I think natural is a great um what thing to apply to that. Yeah, and
All
plus,
right.
can't you come on, right?
I mean, some might look at that and be like, "Man, that company's conceited," but
Hey, if you got
Yeah,
it, flaunt it.
but I mean, honestly, yeah, why not?
yeah.
But, so let's first let's ask about the company itself, Nat
Yeah.
Handsome. What is the mission statement? What is the goal? What is where do you want Nat Handsome to go?
Yeah, so I've personally really enjoyed creating games or facilitating fun for friends. And like most people in the tabletop world that's been playing long enough, you become the author or the creator of your own tabletop role-playing game or supplements, homebrews, etc. And so I just really wanted an outlet to start facilitating that and distributing it to other people. So the
Okay.
projection for growth right now is really just to have some kind of overarching uh, way to connect all of the various projects that I plan to be putting out, including the Kickstarter being the core focus for this year.
Okay. So with the Kickstarter coming out, I'm noticing. I also looked at your website. You've got the princess class on
Yeah.
itch.io. It's very fairy tale focused. What is the reason behind that? Is that kind of going to be your theme, that you're going to try to keep that fairy tale theme, or do you plan to branch out? What is the vision there?
Yeah, so I think uh, I had an idea for a an OSR styled system, and it was pretty themeless for a long time. This was about a year and a half ago, and I was trying to think of a good theme to apply to it, and it took me a while to get there, but I did just I realized that I'm just obsessed with, or I guess I have a particular fascination with the fairy tale media, be that books or adaptations of fairy tale stories, and I wanted to use that love of that content as a means to apply it to systems. And the more I kind of dug into it, I was like, this is this is something that I think is also very has a lot of appeal for folks. I would say that fairy tale does have a bit of the silly, goofy edge to it, like Gonzo side to it, and I feel like that has probably been the one thing that's difficult to balance when talking to other people about it. Like, oh, it's not like we're just gonna go Alice in Wonderland entirely. like we're also going to have some more serious dark stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric, I believe you had some questions. I've asked like 4 in a row, so now it is your
Wow.
turn.
Yeah, no. So I too looked at your website a little bit. One of the questions that I had that was around your class design. You had a
Yeah.
mention in there about how you follow the latest design methods and philosophies. And then I guess as kind of like a tag along question with that is you do a lot of testing and refinement on the classes. So what are those philosophies and what's that process look like?
Yeah, so a lot of the refinement process, or I guess the philosophies around play testing is actually putting them through play, as well as researching what other content or what other kind of homebrew, especially with the 5e system, with how much content's out there, seeing kind of what other people are doing in order to balance that and be well informed about like how to even structure a class. Because I think there's the guidance that the Dungeon Master's Guide provides to kind of create your own this and that, but it's certainly not what you can't really sink too much of your teeth into it. So a lot of it is like trying to facilitate or discover kind of what's the best like I what's the best approach from other creators as well. So there's a lot of research there as well as bringing it to the table and playing with it. Of course, the princess class itself that I actually just published yesterday um, is currently in a playtest release as well. So I'm hoping that there will be some additional play because I can only get my friends at the table a couple times a week at most. And so it's best to kind of let the community chew on it and see what I can kind of get there. And anybody that does play with that princess class does completely there is guidance there on how you can submit feedback or complaints, arguments, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you looked for a lot of information.
Yeah.
What were some of the best sources that you found for like the balance of classes? I know that I talked with someone in the past who was trying to make a gunslinger class because he did not like the Matt Mercer one.
Yeah.
And he got to like level 6 and he was like, yeah, this is way too much work and I'm not doing this anymore. I
Yeah.
forget what his name was now. He was on another Discord I was on. But yeah, he just said the process of balancing and like he was running all kinds of numbers through generators and like it was so much like math and chemistry basically. What did you find was your experience with that and what kind of resources did you find that actually were helpful?
Yeah, I would say like there's plenty of articles and forums online. There's also a wealth of YouTubers that are out there that talk about class design. Of course, there's some that are more helpful than others. But I would say that they're specifically for class design. the the flavor is what you apply first, especially when it comes to fifth edition. It's like flavor, and then you kind of want to balance based on providing them with a combat pillar ability, and then providing them with a social pillar ability. And so kind of working through that alternating. And if you're able to create if you have enough inspiration through that like flavor, hopefully you'll arrive to that. Now in terms of like balancing, I'd say it's really just like I wouldn't sweat math first. I would probably play test it in order to understand how much like power it has. Just because even a wealth of resources is actually even looking at the source classes and using those as inspiration to understand how the the Wizards of the Coast balances those classes.
So
Because they have a lot of, I think if you look at 12 classes, there are some design decisions that you can pull out of those.
So, question on the balancing, because you mentioned power there a little bit. Something that is very apparent in most tabletop games that have multiple supplements that come out on any kind of regular schedule is power creep. So, when you're designing a class, do you take that into consideration and balance based on a previous supplement, or do you look at the more recent ones to try and consider your balancing parts with that? So keep it relevant to the old and the new, but like how does that all play together?
Yeah, I think with the D&D side of things, there will be some adjustments to these classes, I'm sure, with the 2024 releases. So there's a bit of uncertainty about how they'll dial in the knobs for future games. But for right now, it's really just seeing what exists officially, what have other homebrew creators done or supplement authors done, and then really just making decisions around it. Because I've also kind of seen it where people will, or within some homebrew classes where they're underpowered because they were too concerned about providing them power, overpowering them. So I think it really is in play understanding how much that affects the table. Just because if you do look at some of these some of the content from D&D, there's plenty of cases of overpowered like ability spells, etc., where people essentially have to homebrew them out of the game, or build home rules around keeping them out.
Silvery barbs, anybody?
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that right now.
Yeah.
I'm not.
One of the princess's abilities is the ability to change a die to be a successful one. It's called Fortune's Favor that you gain at level 2. I've already received a little like, that seems overpowered. But I feel like a divination wizard already has that ability if they roll well enough on their die.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd have to see
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, I mean,
I'd have to go
day
grab my
before.
book.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that is pretty powerful. Like, I'm not gonna lie, just being able to be like, nah, I hit.
Yeah.
But
I currently am playing a divination wizard, and I love it. I can tell the DM, you miss, sorry, and it's so good every time.
So I had a player once who played a divination wizard,
Yeah.
and the most fun he ever had with it was when he rolled a nat 1 and a nat 20 for his portents.
Oh,
And he was like, I'm going to hold this over your head, this nat 1. Get ready. I'm like, oh boy,
yeah.
here we go.
Oh yeah.
So following up on that,
Yeah.
you mentioned other systems previously. So
Yeah.
what other systems would you want to write for if not 5e? And because
Yeah.
5e is the big focus
Yeah.
out there for a lot of gamers, but a lot of us were looking for things that are not 5th edition based. So
Yeah.
where would
So
you
I-
like to go?
So I love the OSR, specifically Electric Bastion Land or Into the Odd. Those are that kind of rules light, I guess. I don't know if that's still in vogue to say, but the rules or rulings over rules approach, the elegance of writing for that, and that primarily is what I'm interested in writing. Even this 5e content, I don't see it solely being a 5th edition supplement. I see it being something that I expand out to other systems. I know I've already gotten a request for Pathfinder. I feel like that's harder coming from 5e, but but certainly like anything to kind of apply that in an OSR way. I feel like Shadow Dark has a lot of pull right now and interest in players, so that could also be just like another stepping stone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is I want to talk about the book itself, the one you're about to launch to Kickstarter, Fabled Empire. Looking at the like Kickstarter page you sent me, uh is this a setting? Like is this a campaign setting? Is it a supplement? What
Yeah.
exactly is Fabled Empire?
Yeah, so Fabled Empire is the fairy tale world. In the way that I've applied the setting, so it is a setting for campaigns, one shots, etc. It's a it's essentially a demi-plane. So we can get into the planes aspects of it if we want to, but essentially it's a demi-plane that a Fae had created that's different from Feywild. So not a mere plane of existence, but something of its own, and it is really geared towards that like modern classic fairy tale. And I understand like the Feywild has some of those elements, especially with like the recent Witchlight campaign that came out. They really tried to do more of an Alice in Wonderland approach. But I'm interested in pulling from uh, some more classic, but really like also including the more like modern. I don't want to use the D name, but have that kind of inspiration there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it you said that
Yeah.
you're trying to pull from more modern, more like that. So what type of stories are you trying to tell here? Because
Mhm.
I guess when I look at a setting or when I'm looking to buy a supplement for TTRPGs, I'm thinking of what type of stories am I going to tell here as opposed to what am I getting. So, like, for instance, am I going to be playing Snow White and the Seven Dwarves? Am I going to be playing Rapunzel? Is it going to be more grimdark? What is
Yeah.
the theme? What stories are you telling here?
Yeah, so I definitely say it's more Snow White, Rapunzel, aimed towards that. You will portray heroes as much as um, the nine alignment system exists. I feel like these the stories that you'll tell within this world are more geared towards like vanquishing evil, and so having formidable foes within more of a whimsy dark environment. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, not grim dark, uh, or that kind of like not too German fairy tale, I would say. Although that does like crop up a bit.
Okay. So, Eric, got any other questions before I keep rattling?
Well, so one, yeah. So looking through your website, you were talking about a lot of things
Yeah.
that you designed, and one of the things I was curious about is what was your favorite new magical item you designed, and what was the inspiration for it?
Yeah. So I would say that the most recent magic item would be uh, magic beans are one of them. So just the ability to ensnare enemies or have a ladder, something that like grows on up walls. So and pretty so it would be Jack and the Beanstalk specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that was pretty obvious,
Yeah, I
but
just
okay.
I
I'm
never
kind of
know.
getting I'm kind of getting an idea of where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Uh, Beautiful. So, looking at the page also, it says that you've got monsters, villains, denizens, magic items,
Mhm.
spells, player options. I'm kind of curious, like, what type of villains are you putting in there? Is that more of like, is it just going to be generic monster stat block where it would be indistinguishable from like being in the monster manual? Or are there going to be like write-ups for these villains and they're like themed and stuff like that?
Yeah, so
What direction is that?
so they will include stat blocks because they all need layer moves, but the or layer actions, but but they will have write-ups with motivations as well as like origins, minions, if that applies. Um, and I I would say that not um, they're not specific as much as they are like archetypes that you can apply characters to. So there will be like suggestions for names and how they can apply to the story. But I think giving a dungeon master a toolbox when it comes to villains is better than giving them a very specific one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've filled out my sheet here, to be honest with you.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
so Fabled Empires, it's coming. When is it coming to Kickstarter? Is I
Yeah.
guess the big question here.
Uh, yeah, so I plan to launch the Kickstarter in the coming week.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Beautiful.
it is on Kickstarter now and you can save it, follow it, etc. Yeah.
Uh, so I guess I want to ask now some questions about the Kickstarter process.
Yeah.
We had someone on before and we talked to them and they had kind of a negative opinion of the Kickstarter process. And I just wanted to get someone else's opinion. How easy was it to work with Kickstarter? Did you find that that process to be frustrating, to be simple? What was your experience with Kickstarter as a platform? Because I know some people are saying BackerKit is a lot easier, but I don't know because I've never published anything.
Well, I would say so being a millennial, I prefer less human contact when it comes to customer service. So I would say Kickstarter is pretty good about having everything available to you. I did start with BackerKit initially, and they do have like great customer service. So I could see like why folks are saying BackerKit's good, and I think like Kickstarter does need a little competition. Not to say like Kickstarter's terrible. I just think like the more the merrier in terms of like crowdfunding platforms. Uh, in terms of my experience with Kickstarter, I'd say I haven't really had too many issues with it. I've been familiar with the Kickstarter platform for years, but I do uh, professionally I do a lot of like user or user interface development and software development. So it might be a little bit more intuitive for me to navigate those systems than it would somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess the another question I have is, what is the goal of the Kickstarter? What is the goal for Nat Handsome? What are you hoping will come from the Kickstarter?
So hopefully interest or interested players will come to it. So I certainly have a lot of investment in this project personally at this point. Like I've been building it for well over a year and a half, and so the the setting is really solid, and I'm already in the process of all of the art. So I think with the Kickstarter now, it's really just seeing how much interest there is for this, as well as providing access for other people to support it.
Okay. What kind of advertising do you plan to do? Is it just going to be mostly like word of mouth? Are you going to try to get on Facebook, Google? I know TikTok has a huge platform. I don't know if you're going to post anything there, but what is your advertisement strategy? Because I know a lot of Kickstarters that I've seen that I've thought, man, that would have been interesting. I never heard about it prior to it like not succeeding. So,
Yeah.
what is the advertisement strategy?
Yeah, so the princess class that we talked about, being a pay what you want, or essentially something that's just available, is one of those branches into advertising, right? I feel that providing a providing something to people to use is a means to say, hey, maybe check out our other projects. So that's one of the avenues. I'm also pretty actively on social media. I do a lot of talking, or like 1 minute overviews of different types of products that I have on my bookshelf for other folks. And as far as any type of further reach, it's been things like meta ads, Reddit ads have been really helpful, or I guess cost effective. Um, I also have some other personalities with much larger audiences that I've been able to collaborate with and sponsor some of their content.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
then I'm here as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if
which
anybody interested
we
in doing crowdfunding, like this is part of it. Just that slice, I would say. But you could certainly. I don't think you could ever do enough when it comes to advertising.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I honestly am. That's about all I had.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
I don't
guess,
really have anything.
yeah, I think the last one I'll ask before we go ahead and wrap this up is, what advice do you have to people out there that are thinking about writing their own supplements, whether it's for 5e or other systems?
Uh, I'd say create it, put it out there. I know it's super easy to just have stuff locally, or to keep it at your game table. But if you're interested in breaking out into the like larger community of creators, it's uh, I would encourage you to share what you've made. Um, just get ready for some mild criticism. Yeah. Maybe turn comments
Uh,
off for at the start, and then
uh,
yeah.
I always feel like an absolute heel when I say this, but I feel like if you can't handle criticism, you probably shouldn't post stuff on the internet. Because inevitably there's going to be toxic or people that just are going to be mean just for the sake of being mean. So
Oh yeah.
I think it's always good to have a thick skin if you're going to put your face and your opinions out there. But people get mad at me when I say that, but oh well.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, thank you, John, for joining us tonight.
Yeah.
I hope that your Kickstarter is a success. I know I will be following it, and uh, I guess that's one more question, real quick.
Yeah.
What type of tiers are you gonna have for your Kickstarter? And is there a PDF option?
Yes. Yes. So there's two. There's just digital and physical. I don't have the resources or time to talk about dice and miniatures and SDL files, etc. So real simple.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love it. Straightforward and to the point.
Yeah.
PDF, physical, or
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Anyway, but yeah, thank you so much for joining us tonight
Yeah.
on Ronin's Den. It's been a blast having you. I look forward to seeing this as a success. We will definitely be promoting it on our Discords and trying to get your name out there. Also, yeah, if is there's anything else you want to say or let us know before we check out?
Yeah. No. Thanks for having me. on the cast, Interrogation Room. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
Alphonse's
been great.
interrogation chamber.
Alfonso's interrogation chamber. Yeah, it's comfortable. The temperature is
He's
just
made a
right.
couple appearances so far too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the names of our episodes are based off of the Huskies and Malamutes that Eric
Oh,
had through his life. So Ronin is the oldest one who passed away, and then his two that you probably saw running around behind him are Alphonse and Winry. So those are the inspiration behind the names and the art. But
got it.
yeah. So, as always, this has been Ronin's Den. I'm Steve. This is Eric, or that's Eric. That was John with Nat Handsome Games. Keep an eye out for the Kickstarter that is coming out this week. And we will see you in the next one.